Hi, everybody. It's Cheri, your Dysgraphia consultant. I am here with Jorge
Ochoa.
Ochoa. I always want to pause and add an R in your name for whatever reason. More like the whale, orca. So Ochoa. So George, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for
I
having me.
I understand that you have a very unique business that you have used OT alongside. So we're here today to find out a little bit more about that business. What are those things behind you?
Behind me is a drum. This is called a doombeck. This is a doombeck. This is a drum. And then I have some other little ones, and these are called color sound djembes. They come in different colors, as you can see, color sound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I use these a lot with the little kids. I use these a lot with the kids, and also for some of my other drum circles, drumming events as well.
So drums. So you're going to have to tell us a little bit about that. But before we get started, I'd like you to tell us why you became an occupational therapist.
Well, it would have to really start down. Well, before I was an OT, I was a surgical technologist. So I worked in the operating room with the surgeons for a couple of years, I would say maybe around seven years, around there. But I knew that, but there was only so far that I could go being a surgical tech at the time. Okay. So I decided that I wanted to go back to school and get a degree. And so I basically got one of those books that discussed like the fastest growing careers in the U.S. One of those books.
Yeah, OT's been on there for a few years, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I was looking through that book and just started flipping through it, and then by doing some homework, found out about occupational therapy and just how at the time the whole aspect of helping those that perhaps have had a stroke, learning how to regain self-care skills, like being able to dress themselves and so forth, that became an interest to me at the time. Okay. So that's kind of like how I started that journey towards OT. Yeah.
But how do the drums fit in? And tell us a little bit about your business that you use those drums with.
Okay, well, the drums did not, I've been a musician for a while. So I actually, I was in a high school band. I played the bass drum, the big drum, having to march out there in the summer. But I actually did not, I became an OT back in 2001. Okay. And so the drumming really didn't come till a few years later. At the time, I was working for a school district, and I was just looking up information on the internet about drumming, not necessarily the type of drumming I'm doing right now, but just drumming. And then this whole idea of the drum circle kind of just came out to me. And I was really, really impressed with how you can get people who may or may not be musicians, you can get them together, and you can actually basically start to jam with them and just have a good time, So that's how it started. That's how it started. So I basically got into it, I would almost say by accident. Okay. It wasn't really something I was looking for. I didn't have a mindset that I was gonna go and just start this. I kind of I found it, and I was like, this is so neat. And then the more and more I looked into it, there was actually research that was done with it, and coming from a science background, you know, how research is so important. I really liked the research that I saw out there. So so at the time, during this would have been around, I would say somewhere around 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. At the school district I was at, I went to my special ed director, and she was very supportive. And there was a program that I found online that it's called the Rhythmic Arts Project, and that has greatly influenced me when it came to working with those with special needs. So I went to her and asked her to buy me the curriculum and the drums, and she did. And so I started to drum with our kids in special ed. And
oh,
so
cool. So you started in the school district that
yes,
you were working in.
Yes.
And the Rhythmic Arts program that you're talking about, was that a researched program?
No.
What's the background behind that?
The Rhythmic Arts Project was started by a drummer himself. And I believe it is based off, he got the inspiration from when he himself suffered an injury of some type. And then so he went and he developed this.
So he doesn't have a science background. He's strictly a musician?
As far as I know.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And is that program still available today?
Yes, it is. It is. I am positive it has been updated since when I got it, because I got it back in like how I said, 2007, 2008, around there. So I'm pretty sure it has been updated since then. I think there's more that comes with it. Okay. But that really helped me a lot. When that was kind of like the foundation, and then I adapted things as I went along. When it came to those that have special needs and so forth. So yeah, it really started with the Rhythmic Arts Project. And
then at some point you gave yourself a name for your business. When did that happen? Because you started out more like a hobby, and then when did it become a business? Or is it different than a business?
It started out more like probably at the time, more like an experiment at work, I would say.
Experiment at work, okay.
An experiment at work. But it soon became, hand drumming was not my hobby before, but it soon became my hobby, you know. Okay. So I was doing the drumming at school, and so I decided to go ahead and take this more into a part-time business as well. And so when it comes to the name of the business, Tambo rhythms, okay, well, in Spanish, tambor means drum in Spanish.
Okay.
So I just decided just to make it, you know, Tambo rhythms. And so that's how I came up with that name.
Your first language is Spanish, correct?
Yes, and I forgot most of it. Yes, that was because that was as a young child. Yes, when I came from when I came to the United States from Panama, I had limited English and I had to learn it fast to go to school. So yeah.
So Tambo rhythms came out of your Spanish heritage. Drumming came out of your love for drumming, even all the way back to high school.
Yeah. Just the drumming and percussion as well. Drumming
percussion, okay.
Yeah.
So what does Tambo Rhythms do now?
So right now, I have Tambo Rhythms now since it's been since 2008. This was the end of 2008 when I actually formed the company. So I basically do work with those with special needs. I do some work with schools, and I also do some community drumming as well, where families, those of all ages, can come, and we just have a great time, and just a great jam is what, like a rhythm party is what I like to call it.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. So
Do you have um a website that has rhythm parties on it that people could investigate more information about them?
yeah, if you go to tamborhythms.com,
Okay.
yeah, that tells you about the programs, the type of programs that I have, and then
Okay.
as well as my monthly calendar that I do the community drumming with.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's there.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you say that this is a part-time business,
Mm-hmm.
but I have seen videos of you over the last year where you're doing drumming for worship. So there's got to be a ministry piece as well in here. So tell me a little bit of how the drums have even migrated into ministry as well.
Okay, well, let's see. So I play the drum set at church.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's where kind of like where you might consider like the standard word, the when it comes to being involved in a church type of event, So
Okay.
I play the drum set at church, but when I see the drums beyond the concept of the church, I see it as a way to I just happen to be blessed because it is I like to consider it a part-time hobby that is a ministry that I get paid for.
And those are the best kind, because when it's something that's really coming from your heart, that's when it's going to excel. So how does drumming and OT and your whole week kind of like blend together? Like, how did the drumming, how does that work in the schools that you've been able to make this all work together and have a cohesive environment? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So coming from an occupational therapy point of view, the thing with the drumming is that, well, of course, going back to the roots of what OT is and really what the focus is with OT, it's all about occupation. Those things that are meaningful to us, those things that we spend our time in every day. So, as an OT, I see, okay, where does music fit as an OT? So for me to really think about it, I had to really think about it because there's a mistake that I might be called a music therapist, and so I try to, when I can, so I'm not a music therapist, I'm an occupational therapist that happens to use music, or we may be doing some therapeutic drumming, but so when you think about music, I've really had to take a look at, okay, what are the occupations that music can really address, can support, And so when you start out from the framework, from the foundational part of it, what comes off the top of my head real quick is the occupations of play, social participation. When it comes to instrumental activities of daily living, you got health management and maintenance, which and as well, music, drumming can also help to support rest and sleep. So right there, where you start out with the framework of the occupations, you can see how music can be integrated, how it could be intertwined in that, you know. And so going back to the being able to use the music being able to use the drumming as a way to serve others, you know, when it comes to fulfilling the occupations that are important to them, you know. And so that's where you could see, because when you think of the word to be a facilitator, which is what I do. I help the group. I guide the group. When we have the drum circle or the group event, it's not about really about them coming and watch me play. No, it's about me. I help them to be able to come out of their own shell. I help them to be comfortable. And to me, that's where you really learn to serve others, because you go there with that the mentality of serving the group. Even though it ends up being therapeutic for me as well, you know, it is a way to also serve the group as well. So yeah.
Oh, great. So do you have anything that you have created as an instrument, a tool to participate with the drumming? Like, if you what kind of creative objects have you used in your drumming practice?
Not so much anything, or I'm not going to say something that's original, okay, but I think something when it comes to do-it-yourself type of instruments, I think what is very, very practical and feasible is for those people that maybe do not have the funds to go and buy drums, or some type of or like shakers or percussion. They can, if they save like the coffee cans, you know, they can save those gallon jugs. You can save those, and you can make those into nice big shakers. You can use the plastic eggs. You know, you can make those into shakers. So it's not anything major or exciting, but I think it's doable and it's cheap for those that will want to integrate it for themselves or within their own group.
Okay. So what do you put inside the shaker? What is your recommended thing?
Yeah,
I know there's many things that you could, but what do you recommend?
You can put beads in there. You know,
Beads.
like like beads. You could also you can make different types of shakers as well. You know, maybe some of them could have rice in them, you know, to make like a softer sound. You know, so you could play around with you know, what sounds loud, what sounds soft, and so forth. So
okay,
you know, and then with coffee cans, you can just you know, you can put stickers on the outside of it or foam pieces, you know, kind of like to make it your own kind of deal.
well, and that pulls in that whole fine motor task thing as you're creating your activity.
Yeah, and especially when kids are when something that they make, when it's something that the kids make, it's more of an ownership thing for them, and I think it helps them to build their confidence as well.
So it sounds like that's your favorite part of with treatment with the kids, is having them create their own percussion instrument so that they can play it.
I personally, the only time I've had the opportunity really where I really was able to encourage that was when I worked with the Head Start population for around 1.5 years.
Okay.
And so I really don't, because right now I really have enough drums of my own that I basically take everything, and so kids really don't know
Well,
how to.
you must have an SUV then, because if you're trying to carry that many drums, you can't be doing it in
Yeah,
a car.
yeah. Well, I actually have a small car, believe it or not, a Toyota Corolla, believe it or not, and I have all different types of small drums and everything. But when I worked for Head Start, one of the projects was for them to go home and actually make the drum with the parents at home. So that was
Oh,
one of
cool.
the
So
projects
you
that
were
they did
also encouraging that whole social participation, family development part
at the time.
of treatment. That's great.
Yeah. So
Great.
at the time, one of the things that I had done when I did work with Head Start is trying to go around to the centers and trying to also help and train the staff on how they themselves could use and how they could integrate the drumming within their own classroom.
So did you do that as a workshop?
No, that was actually part. Well, I have taught. I have done workshops, training caregivers, but at the time, I was actually going to the centers, playing with the kids, as the adults saw what I did with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they made their own instrument, and then you brought it in, and then you were utilizing the instrument in treatment sessions.
During the trainings, kind of like the training / kids playing. You know what I'm saying? It was like two. It was 2 in 1. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So because these kids were not because I played with all the kids in the classroom, so it was not specifically kids that were receiving OT. You know, it was more of
it was a whole classroom activity. Okay.
Classroom activity. Yes. It was, yeah.
All right. So when you have a drumming circle, how many people can participate? I mean, my brain is going, man, oh man, he spent a lot of money on drums. How many drums do you have that you can share in a drumming circle?
Well, I use a mixture of drums and percussion, so it's not all drums. Which
even so.
Yeah. So I have drums and shakers. I could probably do, like, I just did an event where total people there were probably, it was around like 200.
Wow.
But the facility also had provided some of the drums of their own.
Okay.
So So, and then some people also had brought their own drums. So but I think I could probably do 150 comfortably. I think I have enough.
Wow.
Of course, with
so doing a classroom, like a whole classroom activity, is something that's feasible with the different varieties of drums that you have.
Yes, because because when I do a lot of the work that I do is when I work with the kids, I do have enough where what I try to do is I will try to give half the kids drums and half of them shakers. Okay. And then so that's how I can make that work. Now also and because of course I'm not playing with like 200 kids at one time, you know, it's easy, and the adults are there. It makes it easy to guide, to navigate.
So you say you have a classroom of 24, 30 kids. You have adequate number of materials, drums, shakers, to help facilitate a classroom. Do you ever do a whole group activity like that and then follow that up with a handwriting activity?
I have not done that, but that's a good idea.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yes.
And because what I'm thinking in my head is how to relate what you're doing into some of those pre-writing phases in creating an RTI program. I've been thinking a lot about different strategies to create RTI programs right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking in my head that we could use the drumming as that whole deep proprioception, the banging and the shaking, getting those arms ready.
Yes, I was
And then move on to a writing activity and do it as a whole classroom.
Right.
And then the teacher could also come in and facilitate the writing prompt or whatever she needs to have in the classroom, and you remain behind and be part of the classroom to help those kids that are struggling with the actual writing. So my brain is going that way, and maybe I've taken it on a different tangent than you expected, but I'm thinking to myself, while you're talking, wouldn't that be a great RTI program? So there we go. I have another action plan for an RTI program.
Right. No, I actually, I have looked at some of your work already. So I kind of was already beginning to think about how the whole aspect of dysgraphia and drumming, based on some of your own thoughts and some of your own work. So, so for sure we have in the drumming as a warm-up or pre-writing activity, I can definitely see how the use of just the proprioception part of it, where the kids will have to learn, where you could do the being able to not just really to get the deep resistive type of feeling, but also where they can learn how to gauge the pressure as well, as compared to playing, we're going to play soft, we're going to play loud.
Right.
We're going to play
Why don't you get your drum a little bit? Like get your drum.
Okay.
So some of the things that they can do, you're talking about the loudness, like how much of a force are they using to create the pressure to hit the drum? Do you have to teach young kids?
Most of the time, I would have to say, once they see what I'm doing, they pick it up.
Okay. So you're not really, it's more like an intuitive nature, and they're seeing you just tap a little bit, so they're tapping a little bit.
Right. I'm not sure if I'm trying to bring my seat back. Can you see the drum in the?
I can see the drum.
Okay. So one of the things that I have done it, and I go, so I go, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, let's get soft. Soft on the drums, soft, soft, soft. Everybody, let's get soft. I play soft, you play soft, everybody plays real soft. Soft, 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 soft on the drums, soft. Soft on the shaker, everybody let's get soft, 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 soft. 1,
I love it.
2, 1, 2, now let's get loud. Loud on the drum, everybody let's get loud. I play loud, you play loud, everybody let's get loud, loud, loud. Loud on the drum and the shaker, loud, 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 loud. 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Now let's get slow, slow, slow. I play slow, you play slow, and we play slow. 1, 2, now let's get fast. Go fast, 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 fast. Everybody let's get fast, fast, fast. Fast on the drum and fast on the shaker. 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. So, yeah. So,
nice job.
Around those lines. So right there, they're learning, how to regulate, that aspect of it, which of course can...
they're really intuitively learning self-regulation, emotional control, the moment they get the drum with you.
Yeah. And it's so funny because kids, young kids, they tend to equate loud with playing fast. So that's something, and I really don't get depending on their age. I really don't focus too much on that. The main thing is that they can follow the directions of knowing how to regulate just the differences in tempo and also being soft, touching the drum softly and then touching the drum with more force. you know.
Now, do you then switch some part of the way through so that the kids that have the drum and the kids that have the shaker can feel the other device?
Depending on the time that we have, I
Uh-huh.
do, depending on the time, because sometimes it just depends. It's easier when I have a smaller group and the amount of time that I'm allotted.
Okay.
You know, but I do try when I can, because that will work on the aspect of sharing and other social skills. You know, so even if many times, you know, even if I do have enough to have enough drums, I purposely do not give out all the drums, you know, because I want them to be able to learn how to share and so forth, you know, and
so that's also part of that social participation piece
yes,
of
exactly.
occupation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Another thought that came to my mind as we were talking was interactive metronome. I don't know if you know what interactive metronome is.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've done some research into their program, and one of the things that they're doing is rhythm with electronics and technology
Right.
as well. And one of the things that they have found in their research is that kids with specific disabilities anticipate the beat, other disabilities are delayed beat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're finding that there isn't pretty much a consistency based on their diagnosis, what they're doing with the beat and how that beat is not necessarily the rhythm that it should be. Do you see certain kids anticipate the beat constantly and like you can almost pick out ahead of time in the classroom which kid's going to be the anticipator and which one's going to be the delayer?
When I first start out now, everything that I do, of course, is within a group context.
Right.
So I rarely do, and when I'm talking group, it could be the teacher, myself, and the child. You know, so it's always in a group. When I usually when I'm starting out the drum circle and we're starting to play with start, just to stop and start, is when, and this is probably my favorite part of the drumming with the kids, is that you're playing, okay, so you're playing your rhythm and we all play together, and then I might go 4 3 2 1 stop, 2 3 4 1 2 back to the groove, go. Now it's amazing how quickly they end up picking up on that, where they actually get to the point where they know stop, and then they all imagine all these kids playing, and then I stop and they all stop, and then I'm like 4 1 2 and back to the groove, and they all come back in. So it's amazing to me how they can just
they pick it up.
Yeah, in the beginning it might be a little bit tough in the beginning, but then they pick it up, and then that becomes like my favorite part of it, because it's just when it comes to like the attention span and the impulse control, the self control that they can exhibit with that.
Yeah.
So
what is your favorite age group of kids to do that? Is it like that 3 to 5 year old, the Head Start,
I would say,
or is it an older student?
And elementary, I would probably say I like to drum a lot with the 4 and 5 year old. Well, no, based on what I've been doing, the probably pre-K through 5, I think is good.
Yeah.
Very good. And but then I also do a lot of work. Of course, we've been talking a lot about the schools, those in schools, but I also like I do a lot of work with those with special needs too. You know, so I really enjoy doing.
I know what you're trying to say there. You have a lot of clientele that are adults that are intellectually disabled.
Yeah, like there's one I work with on a monthly basis. I work with two organizations for those with special needs, and they have to. But one of them is for teens and older, and
Okay.
then the other one is I think you have to be 16 years old and older to be
Okay.
involved in that. Yeah. So and I enjoy I enjoy both. So
you have the young kids that are learning, having self-regulation issues that you're working with. Then you have this population that has an intellectual disability that you're working with. And so you get to work across the lifespan working with people.
And then also there's the community drum circle, which I do that.
And that can be anybody, right?
All ages, everybody, all ages. That I do that once a month, and all of that is just a matter of well, we can talk more about the community aspect of it too, and just how things have worked out so far. But one of the things also that I wanted to get back when it came to this whole aspect of the drumming, and I guess trying to relate it back to either like handwriting or dysgraphia also, which is one of the things that I had read also in your work is the whole concept too of crossing of the midline. And also a good drum for that would be the bongo drums. For those that are
because they're two side by side.
Yeah, it's two side by side. Exactly.
So you have that position and you have that position.
Yeah,
and you have to go back and forth.
Or yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's a good drum to work on it. Also, when it comes to trying to work on shoulder, on the stability of the shoulder as well, because of course we know when it comes to handwriting, there's more to it than just the hand.
That's correct.
You have to look at other parts. So one of the things also that can be used is if you get like a different type of drum, and like this particular type is a frame drum. Okay, and so
it looks more like a tambourine.
Yeah, it kind of looks like one, but it's a frame drum. You can just hold in your hand, and of course, playing anything up where you have to go up against gravity, of course, that will help to develop your shoulder. So even doing that, playing, you play to the side, to the other side, you play in front of your body, you play high, you play low, and of course, even in doing that, you're learning the different the positioning of where the letters also would go. You got the top,
I see what you're saying.
Middle, you got the bottom, and so forth. So you could even run with it and use that with it as well.
So some of the concepts of understanding where things are in space and position is called Bain Concepts. So you're learning not just the raising your arms up, but you're also learning direction, because you're forcing your arms to go with the motion that you're being taught. When my kids were little, we used to do a lot of activities with sticks. Put your sticks in the air and tap them down below and tap them. And so my kids got a lot of directional stuff with that. But I like the drum that you have there, because it's going to cause a little bit of motion, because the kids are going to want to get bigger or smaller depending on how you're showing them how to do it, which is going to, one, increase the motion, so it's going to increase the proprioception feedback in the shoulder, or if it's smaller, it's going to make it more refined. And just like handwriting, just like the drumming, handwriting has to go bigger and get smaller over time.
Right. Exactly.
So I like the analogy there of using that kind of a drum. So
And then also there's also I'm not sure if you've ever heard of boom whackers. Boom whackers.
boom, what I
Yeah,
keep
boom
hearing
whackers.
about that, but
Yeah,
it looks like a swimming noodle, right?
they're tuned percussion tubes, and they each have a pitch, a different pitch. So you can use those as well to play.
But am I right? They're the things that kind of look like a swimming noodle.
Kind of, but just an empty tube is what it is. And
Okay.
yeah, and
And
they
because
come
the
in different
diameter
colors.
is a different one, the airflow through the tube it brings it to a different pitch and
The
frequency.
diameter is all the same. The
The
length is
diameter
the
is the
different.
same.
The length is different.
The length is different. Okay.
Yes, the length is different. So those I use those a lot too.
Okay.
And so,
Well, you have invested a lot of money in your hobby.
yeah,
Like
I've
a lot of
also
people do. A lot of people like to invest money in hobbies.
yeah. I also have been. I must say also that I have been blessed because I also am a fit. I'm with a percussion company as well, and they have also generously given me a lot of stuff. So
Oh, that's nice.
yeah.
That's nice.
So yeah. So I've been blessed with that, and
Yeah. So before I get to my last couple questions, I wanted to know, do you have any questions for me?
my main question for you would have to be, why or how did you get started in your own work with
How
this
did I
one?
get started? Ultimately, it was because I fell.
You fell.
I fell.
Okay. Okay.
And I had a shoulder injury and I was
Mm-hmm.
having trouble getting back to work and I was looking for something to fill in the time. And one of the questions that I got asked almost immediately upon starting in school-based therapy is, I got this referral for this kid. He can read above grade level, but he can't write. And I could not understand the relationship between reading and writing
Mm-hmm.
and the disconnect for those that could. So because I was down with the shoulder injury, I took that time to start the research and I went, wait a minute, this is a book. This is filling in a gap that is out there because I could not find information. And I really was trying to understand the difference between dyslexia and dysgraphia and really delineate for myself so that I could articulate that to others. So the book came out of that need for myself to answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's all because of the fall, huh?
Well,
That
that was
fall.
the catalyst that helped me go beyond the thought in my head.
Mm-hmm.
That was the catalyst of bringing it all together. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. Do you know the anniversary of the book is this week?
Already.
Yeah, we are
I did not
recording
know that.
this on what is this, March 9th, and the book came out a year ago of this week.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my last two questions. The first one, the tagline of the American Occupational Therapy Association is "Living Life to the Fullest" for OT month. What does that mean to you?
Okay. So I'm going to talk about it in the context of what I do then. Okay, the drumming. When I like to see the drumming, and this I think will go along with being involved with the ability to serve others, to help them. I like to say that with drumming, it helps people. I help them to help. I help them to live their life in rhythm. Drumming can help people to live their life in rhythm. And of course, you know, you hear a tagline like that, and you're like, well, what's that supposed to mean, everything? And I just, one of the things that I like to say is that when I say that drumming helps you to live life in rhythm, or music can help you to live life in rhythm, I'm talking about helping you so that you can learn And so, of course, whenever I talk to people about this, I'm always preaching to myself, because I need to hear this just as much as they do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That to develop those the habits that they need to develop in their life in order to be better, in order to do those things that they want to do, but then of course in a healthy and safe way. So I always, I use drumming as kind of like the springboard to that, because and this goes more along the lines, going more towards the community setting, because I know that when I work a lot with the kids, it's really more kids, and then those with and with certain ones also that have special needs. I'm really trying to work on the social emotional aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
which again, that is also helping them to live life in rhythm, because especially the kids that might have autism or something else, it's helping them to develop their social skills, and that's what they need in order to or that's one of the things that they may need in order to live in rhythm within society, to build on those skills. So when I work with others, I might say, think about those things that you need to do in your own life, in learning to live life to the fullest. We need to decide what changes we need to make, what we need to incorporate. Maybe we're already doing it, but we need to do those things that take us on that path of health and wellness in our own life, and that's where the service comes in, being able to serve the group and that capacity, because the drumming is just for a short period of time. I mean, I only have them for so long, no matter what age you are. You can be a little child, an adult. We're drumming for just a certain amount of time. But then what happens when the drumming is over and then you go on with your life? What is it that we can learn from that? One of my favorite examples is years ago, I was drumming with a young man with autism. His brother would bring him to my class every week. It was a 6-week course. I asked at the end of the course, how the drumming, how the rhythm has helped their loved one. And the brother said how it helped him to be less socially awkward. And I was like, wow.
Wonderful.
Yes. So that's what he needed. That helped him to live his life in rhythm, to live his life to a more fuller life. Just the other day, there was somebody at the drum circle and we played. And then at the end, they left feedback, and they felt that the session was therapeutic because they were dealing with the loss of their husband, of their spouse. So, it's just a matter, so that's where it becomes not just the hobby, the service to just help these people. It's just so much that's involved in the drumming with me. It's just like it really is a blessing to be able to enjoy what I like to do, but then at the same time helping others as well. And then sometimes being able to help them and to serve them in ways that I don't even know that's going on, because sometimes we just don't know what others are going through.
Right.
And I know that drumming isn't for everyone, so that's why I always say, people need to find out what they need to do in order to find that rhythm in their own life. So
Great. So my last question is a combo question, and that is, do you listen to podcasts? What is your favorite podcast? And can you give us a recommendation on a book?
I do not have a favorite podcast, I'll be honest with
Okay.
you. Okay. But if anybody is interested in this, and we talked about it a bit before, it's not so much of just a book, it's a curriculum, and I would say the Rhythmic Arts Project.
Okay.
You know, and I think the website for that is traplearning.org, I think. But if you go online and you put the Rhythmic Arts Project, it should come up, and you can even look that up on YouTube as well. So
Okay.
and they have you can see them in action and what's being done and so forth. You know. So.
Cool. So if anybody wants to learn more about drumming and you, George, where do they find you?
They can go on Facebook. There's a Tambo Rhythms group.
Okay.
That they can join. My website, tamborhythms.com. Instagram, the Tambo Rhythms on there as well.
Okay. And you have a YouTube channel also, right?
Yes, that's right. And the YouTube channel, yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff there as well.
But you also have another channel, and that is called Occupational Therapy Tips. And what you're doing on there that I see is you're sharing other people's strategies for handwriting. And you shared something of mine about a year ago, and that is how we connected. Was you, one of us reached out to the other, and we're asking to share some ideas, and that particular conversation on Messenger that evening made my brain go, I am on the right track, because up until that point in time I was still going, am I wasting my time? So it was nice to see, to make that connection and realize and have that validation that people are looking out for more information on dysgraphia. So I wanted to also reach out and mention that, because I think that it's very valuable to realize that it's not just the drumming that you're doing, but you are sharing tips with the occupational therapy community.
Yeah, right. And there's a group too for that too. There's an occupational therapy and educational tips Facebook group as well. And then occupational tips on Instagram. You know, and it's just it's a mix, like how you said. It's some ideas that I've come up with, some ideas I've learned from others, as well as some ideas that that others have I've also shared from other sites as well. Just so that others, and it's for, you know, it's not just for OTs, anybody, parents, educators.
And I will try to remember to put all the links to all that in the notes when I put it up on YouTube. So for now, unless you have anything further, this is Cheri Dowderer, your dysgraphia consultant, talking with Jorge Ochoa from Tambo Rhythms. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Let me end this recording.